My wife pushed for an open marriage, cheated on me with a CO, and begged for forgiveness when he lost interest. But I was already dating the one person she never expected. Her best friend. Hey there, Reddit. Never thought I'd be posting something like this, but I've been holding on to this story for a long time and it deserves to be told. So here we go. I'm 35 years old, a man who spent most of his life working in construction. I started my career as a laborer after graduating high school and gradually worked my way up. I don't work in air-conditioned offices. I work with my hands. I create structures that stand on their own. You'd be surprised how many people hold that in high regard until they start looking for something more promising. Anyway, I was married for 3 years. Rachel is 30 years old, a woman who works in public relations, marketing or something like that, and spends more time in meetings discussing the weather than doing anything meaningful. I used to joke that I got paid to sweat while she got paid to write emails with emojis. For a while, everything was fine. We had a certain routine. Dinners together, weekend chores, the typical couple routine. Nothing extraordinary but consistent. We weren't fighting and we weren't distant. That's why her words when she came back from a girls' trip were so unusual. So she takes a weekend trip to Dallas with her friends. Nothing dramatic, just shopping and spa treatments and expensive drinks. The usual. Her best friend, Sarah, a 31-year-old woman, was also there. Sarah's great, by the way. I always thought she was very down-to-earth, kind of cool in a group of friends who act like they're on a reality show. Rachel returns from her journey with a new perspective, very different, not just exhausted or hungover from the trip. She's lost in thought, cold and distant, disappearing in the middle of conversations. She'd be on her phone constantly. Meanwhile, she was beaming as if the messages were material for a stand-up comedy show. I figured she just wanted a minute to relax, so I didn't press her. However, on Tuesday night she dropped the bomb. Now that I think about it, it all started a few months before the trip, when Rachel started spending more time with her friend Melissa than usual. They had never spent so much time together before. Melissa has always been very outgoing. She emphasizes the importance of keeping your options open and that partnerships shouldn't be like cages, which is notable coming from someone whose longest relationship was with her hairstylist. Rachel now had weekly dinners with her and she didn't get home on time, way too late for someone who was supposed to be having deep conversations. Every time she came back from meeting with Melissa, her mood was strange. She'd be overly cheerful or irritable for no apparent reason, as if she was trying to convince herself of something. At the time, I assumed she was just going through a phase or wanted some space. Melissa was here giving TED Talks about how to ruin your own marriage, calling it self-care. We're in the kitchen. I'm making eggs. She's just standing there watching me like I'm about to break her favorite mug. And then she says casually, as if she's talking about switching laundry detergent, "I think we should try an open relationship." I assumed she was joking. I laughed and kept stirring. She doesn't laugh. I turn around. She's completely serious, calm as if she'd rehearsed it. I ask, "Wait, what?" She repeats in the same tone as if it's no big deal. "I think it could be good for us. It's nothing major. A lot of couples do it." Okay, fair. Yes, right. A lot of couples do it as if it were the new trend in meal prepping or wearing matching pajamas. Like it's a cute little trend she discovered on Pinterest. Somewhere between DIY smoothie bowls and 100 different ways to make your marriage fascinating again. I'm just staring at her, trying to figure out which version of my wife I'm talking to now. Because the Rachel I married used to say things like, "If you cheat on me, I'll leave you without blinking." Now the Rachel in front of me is saying, "Hey, what if we just schedule this cheating?" So I lean against the counter and ask, "Where is this coming from?" She gives me one of those shrugs. That's exactly how I feel right now. I've been reading a lot about it. Melissa is in one, she says. It changed her life. Oh, there it is. Melissa, of course. That same Melissa who believes every terrible decision is liberating and who has stated that monogamy was a systemic tool. The same Melissa whose notion of emotional growth is signing up for a new dating app every month and labeling it self-praise. I don't even respond. I just go back to the pan and flip the eggs. Meanwhile, she continues. It's about growing as individuals, about learning more about ourselves and still choosing each other, but without all the restrictions, you know? Well, yeah, for sure. What better way to strengthen a relationship than to let others into it and make themselves comfortable? She keeps talking like she's read too many Instagram captions and believes she's discovered the code of love. I stay quiet, just let her talk because I'm not surprised anymore. I'm really disappointed. Not by her idea, since people try everything in relationships. I'm disappointed that she didn't reach out to me first. She didn't even ask. Basically, she decided this was the next step and threw it at me, expecting me to applaud and say, "Wow, how brave." Instead, I offered her a plate of eggs without saying anything. And just like that, she went from being my wife to being a woman I didn't recognize. I didn't yell, didn't lose control. Just stood there trying to process the fact that this woman with whom I'd built a life and a home was now talking about bringing other people in to live with us as if it were a fun weekend project. But here's the thing, it wasn't something that just intrigued her. It was something she'd been thinking about for a long time. Maybe she already had someone in mind. Melissa had just thrown gasoline on the fire that was already burning in her head. That's what my gut told me. So the next day, instead of saying no, I said, all right. I said, sure, let's try this. Her eyes lit up. You'd think I'd just offered her front row tickets to watch Beyoncé. She asks, seriously? You're open to this? I reply, if it makes you happy. And let me tell you, that night she was practically bouncing around the house, acting effervescent as if she'd just been ungrounded by her parents. I kept my composure, but my mind was already racing. I've always found that if you give people enough time to talk, they'll eventually give themselves away. And Rachel, she was getting ready to sing. The next morning, she was texting nonstop and leaving the house more often in nicer clothes, perfume that smelled more expensive than my power tools. She said she was having coffee with a friend every night. The same excuse. Hanging out with friends. She assumed I hadn't noticed, but I did. I'm not stupid. The thing is, I didn't react. I didn't ask questions or confront her. I didn't even show anger. I just kept going to work, doing my thing and pretending not to notice. Honestly, it was simpler to stay silent when I had a strong suspicion that she wasn't just thinking about open partnerships. She was already way ahead of that period. So I did what any man with half a brain would do. I started watching, listening, and waiting. What I was really doing was letting her dig the hole herself. Rachel didn't want an open relationship. Instead, she wanted a safety net while she checked out her upgrades. And me? I was about to cut the rope, but that's when everything really fell into place. My sister Emma reached out to me. We're close and always have been. She's 2 years younger than me and, unlike most people, doesn't sugarcoat anything. If my haircut looks terrible, she'll tell me. If my car smells like gym socks, she'll tell me before she even gets in. So she texts me out of nowhere. Can we talk? It's about Rachel. I tell her, yeah, come over to my place. I expected her to say something vague or offer me advice I'd already received. No. Emma came in like a hurricane. Walked in, sat down, and left. Michael, I need you to know Rachel is already cheating on you. That caught my attention. I asked how she knew. She grabs her phone and shows me a screenshot of a group chat she had with a girl who used to hang out with Rachel and her friends. According to reports, Rachel told her team during the trip that she'd met someone with potential. According to the messages, Rachel was already talking to a wealthy man before the girls' weekend. A CEO of a tech company who drives a luxury car, travels for networking, and has 3 pairs of glasses worth more than my truck. I was right. She was already thinking about someone. One of the messages literally said, if I do this right, I won't have to worry about money anymore. Rachel was talking about a guy as if he were a lottery ticket. I sat there for a second trying to process it. Not because I didn't believe it. Yes, I did. I'd been feeling strange for weeks. But having confirmation like that, man, it wasn't even anger I felt. It was just freezing. Emma responds, I wasn't going to say anything at first, yes, but seeing you let her walk all over you made me sick. I appreciated that more than she imagined. I told her not to tell anyone else. I wasn't ready to respond yet. At least not publicly. Because when someone shows their hand, it's wise to let them continue. Let them feel comfortable. Let them believe they're winning. It makes it much easier to prepare the ending. Now that I understood what I knew, everything made sense. The open relationship proposal was a tactic. Rachel asked permission to sleep with Mr. Executive, but without appearing to be the villain. She wants freedom without consequences. And me? I was just destined to play along, maybe see 1 or 2 women, let Rachel have fun with rich boy, and then either the scene fades smoothly or wait for her to make a decision. Yeah. Number. That's when things changed. I started paying attention to Sarah. Now let me make one thing clear. Nothing happened with Sarah during all this time. Nothing, not even a small amount. Sarah isn't the type of woman who throws herself at just anyone. She's smart and well-dressed and aware of the chaos that was unfolding. She maintained a respectful posture. But following the revelation about the open relationship, I started reflecting on all those situations again. The way she looked at me while I was fixing the porch railing last year. She stayed behind to help me clean up after Rachel's birthday dinner. She didn't hesitate or gossip when things between me and Rachel got tense. Then she texted me. Just a simple, "Hi, how are you?" I had no idea how to respond. I had just said, "Still breathing." She replied, "You don't just breathe. You deserve to be treated like that. You deserve much better. I saw what's happening. You deserve so much more. That message had a different impact. It was the first time anyone had said that. Everyone else just skirted around the subject. But Sarah said things as they were. After that, I started thinking differently. I was no longer just the person trying to keep up appearances. I was the man who was plotting something. Not for revenge, but because I refused to let someone steal and destroy everything I'd built while they shopped for upgrades. And yes, I did something after that. The thing is, I didn't have to do anything suspicious. All I needed to do was start very casually, involving Sarah more in the story. It started simply. She stopped by to pick up a jacket she'd forgotten at home. I asked if she'd like to stay for coffee. She replied, sure. We talked for about 20 minutes about work and how she was tired of the constant turmoil Rachel was dragging her into. She says Rachel craves turmoil and then gets furious when things get complicated. I said, yeah, welcome to my world. After that, I didn't have to try very hard. Sarah has started showing up more often lately. Sometimes to drop things off, sometimes to chat while I was outside working on the vehicle. She'd hand me tools, hold a flashlight, and ask about the components. Most women would be completely bored watching a man mess with rusty bolts. She actually listened. Meanwhile, Rachel started to notice. That night, when I was almost asleep, Rachel said casually, "You've been spending a lot of time with Sarah lately." I didn't even stop to tie my boots for work the next morning. I just looked at her and asked, "Why does that bother you?" She shrugged, trying to look unconcerned. "No, I'm just saying." I gave a half smile. Good, because I wasn't asking. The next day, she started asking questions like a detective without a warrant but actually wants one. Was Sarah here again today? Did Sarah mention anything about me? Why is Sarah texting you so much? Initially, I played dumb. She just said she'd stopped by or wanted to borrow the drill, which was correct. Sarah borrowed my drill once. Who knows if she actually used it or was just trying to irritate Rachel. Either way, in this case, the objective was achieved. That's when things became quite evident. Rachel stopped meeting with the CEO. She said he got too intense and she needed space. She tried to cling to me again. Started making more dinners. Started calling me love again as if it were normal to erase everything. One night, I came home after going to the market and found her with a romantic dinner set up. I walked in and asked, "Is it someone's birthday?" She smiles and replies, "No, I just thought it would be nice to spend time together. Like old times, right?" Old times. Before she tried to sell our marriage for a guy who presumably wears a fragrance called liquidity. I sat down, ate in silence, and then added, "Sarah mentioned, you make a good mushroom risotto." She froze. Her entire face contracted as if her circuits had collapsed. "You talked to Sarah about this?" "Yes. She mentioned she used to help you with this recipe." Rachel forced a smile so big I thought her cheeks would burst. After that dinner, things only got worse. She started hovering around me, following me around the house, asking what I was doing, who I was texting, and asking if Sarah had said anything new. I said, and she replied, "You should stop lurking around the kitchen like you're auditioning for a thriller movie." It wasn't well received, but here's what really worked. One weekend, I invited Sarah to help me with the backyard fence. Rachel was home pretending to read a book she hadn't touched since we bought it as a shelf prop. Sarah and I were out there working and joking around. She downplayed the fact that I measured twice and still made mistakes in cutting. I responded with something about her small hands being useless for power tools. It was the most natural feeling I'd had in months. I look up and Rachel was standing at the window, motionless, staring through the glass like an extra in a horror movie. I waved. She ducked down. Later that night, she tried emotional manipulation and guilt. "I just feel like you're pushing me away." I replied, "You literally asked me to accept that you were dating someone else. That's not pushing you. I'm giving you the runway." She retorted, "But you never wanted to do this. You only said yes to trap me." I replied, "No, I said yes because I wanted to see how fast you'd crawl to someone else." Turned out to be faster than Prime delivery. She stormed off furiously. The next day, Sarah texted me. She called me this morning. Wanted to talk. She's losing her mind. I replied, "Great. Leave her alone." She asked for honesty. She's about to find out what locked doors feel like. Rachel believed she was in control. She presumed I'd be ignorant, passive, or loyal to anything other than waiting around. She didn't realize I was already laying the groundwork. After that, things changed. Sarah and I weren't just talking anymore. Something happened. Things shifted between us. I could feel it, and I'm pretty sure she could too. It wasn't forced. It wasn't rushed. Just made sense. So I invited Sarah to dinner, not out at my house. She brought a homemade lasagna, well-stuffed layers, absolutely crispy on top, and smelling like pure comfort. And by all accounts, Sarah cooks like a magician too. We were sitting at the kitchen table, plates full, laughing about ridiculous things. Nothing forced or fake, just two people who'd been through so much they deserved a quiet evening. It felt incredibly right. In the middle of dinner, I looked at her and said, "I don't want to play games anymore." She stopped, put down her fork, and looked at me as if she'd been waiting in this line all night. "Neither do I," she replied. There was a brief moment of silence, as if everything had slowed down. And then she said, "I think I should tell you something." I raised an eyebrow. She smiled, not with an air of superiority, but as if she'd finally stopped holding back. "I always liked you, Michael. Even when you and Rachel started dating. Never said anything because, well, you were taken. And I don't get involved with people who are taken. But I saw how you treated her, how constant you were, the way you built things not just with your hands but with your loyalty. And I think I always wondered what it would be like if someone like you chose me." At first, I didn't say anything, just let the question hang in the air. Not because I was surprised, but because it was refreshing to finally hear something honest. I looked at her and said, "Well, now I choose you. No more guessing." She nodded and our gazes met. "So, shall we do this?" she asked. She gave a wide smile without hesitation. "Yes, let's do this." That was it. No games, strange conditions, or emotional juggling. Just frank conversation, real food, and a woman who treated me like a prize, not like a stepping stone. For the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. So the next day, still with dusty boots, I came home from work and found Rachel sitting on the couch, looking at her phone as if she were searching for the next reality show to participate in. Sarah would arrive in approximately 15 minutes. I decided, you know what? Enough beating around the bush. So I sat down casually as if I were going to ask what's for dinner. "Rachel," I said, "just wanted to let you know. Sarah and I are together now. It's official." She stops mid-sentence. "You're kidding." "No. Was Sarah my best friend?" I nodded. "Well, you gave up exclusivity, remember? I'm just doing what you encouraged, exploring." She stood up so fast the couch surely needed therapy. "You're disgusting. I can't believe you do this to me with her. What kind of man is this?" I interrupted her. Calm and direct. "I'm the kind of man who gave his wife a chance to be honest. Who supported her while she got involved with a CEO, as if our marriage were just her plan B. You didn't just leave the door open, Rachel. You tore it off the hinges." She starts pacing back and forth and screaming, using every insult that comes to mind. Sarah is called a phony. I'm a traitor and we're accused of conspiring behind her back. Then she calms down and says, "I was thinking and I don't want an open relationship anymore. I want to go back to how things were before." As if it were a simple switch we could turn off. Like, oops, my bad. Let's go back to the part where I tried to use my marriage to get a financial upgrade. I stared at her for a second, letting the stillness do the heavy lifting. Then I looked her in the eyes and replied, "Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. And I want you to start packing." Have you ever seen someone blink so fast it looks like they're glitching? That's exactly what she was like. It caught her by surprise, as if the calculations weren't adding up in her head. "You're not serious," she replied. "Oh, I'm serious. Wait for your divorce papers." And she staggered back a step, as if she'd just realized the earth wasn't flat after all. "You're divorcing me?" she asks, sounding like the victim of a bad drama. As if I were the first one to bail, so I made it crystal clear and direct. "No, Rachel, I'm divorcing the version of you that forgot what commitment meant. The version that thought love was something you replaced when someone flashier came along. The version that threw loyalty in the trash the instant it stopped being exciting for you." She opens her mouth to argue, but I continue. "You wanted options. You explored them. And now that the Tesla guy doesn't call you anymore, suddenly you remember I exist. No, you don't miss me, Rachel. You missed the guy who stuck around when you didn't deserve it. Still blinking. Still trying to resurrect the fantasy she lived in. You said you wanted freedom, remember? Well, congratulations. Now you're free. Free from this marriage. Free from this house. Free from pretending you didn't know exactly what you were doing." She didn't say anything for about 30 seconds. Just stood there, arms crossed, trying to decide which angle to use that she hadn't tried yet. Then, with the most deplorable voice I'd ever heard, she said, "Can't we at least talk about this?" So I leaned forward, my voice soft but clear as day. "We talked about this when you suggested we turn our marriage into a community project and decided back then that I didn't matter. So now I'm just agreeing with you," and I walked past her calmly. No shouting, no throwing anything. "That's the real conversation, Rachel. You can start packing your things before I get back. And there's no point trying to appeal to compassion. You left that behind along with your dignity when you chose a CEO over your husband. She just stood there, shaking, angry, confused, and ashamed. All of it mixed together. And then she stormed out, slamming the door. When I came back, she was gone. Then Sarah arrived. I told her everything, how Rachel reacted and what she said. Sarah didn't hesitate. She just nodded and continued. She'd never handle this well. She's not used to losing. We sat on the back patio and ate leftovers straight from the plate with forks. Fancy? Maybe not. Satisfying? Well, yes. Rachel had made her decision. She had to accept it. And me? I finally felt free. The circus officially began the next day. 12 missed calls before 8 in the morning. 2 voicemails that started with, "Can we talk?" and ended with, "You're a snake." Seriously productive. Then came the text marathon. She slapped me with texts saying, "You're throwing everything away. You're being cruel. You're going to regret this." And my particular favorite, "Sarah was never your friend. She used you." I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I lacked words. I had plenty. But I felt the best way to make her feel powerless was to let her scream into the void. Meanwhile, I met with my lawyer. Let me tell you something, future husbands of Reddit. If you get married, get a damn prenup. Not because you expect things to go wrong, but because if they do and your wife decides to treat your marriage like a temporary contract, you'll be sitting in a chair like I was taking a sip of coffee while your lawyer reviewed the process. He looked up at me with a wry smile. She doesn't get a cent. Not a damn cent. I nodded. Original signatures in the safe. Hard copy and scanned. He chuckled and leaned back. You, my friend, are my new favorite client. The prenup was clear and unequivocal. Unfortunately, there was no infidelity clause, but it protected everything I owned at the time. My money, the property I bought before we got married, my truck, my equipment, and the company I fought so hard for. He continued reading aloud to make it worse. All income from premarital business entities shall remain separate and immune to division in the event of divorce. He stared at me again. This includes the shop and those 2 rental properties. I nodded. Everything down to the lawnmowers? He laughed. The man came with receipts and lawnmowers. Rachel was only entitled to what was in her personal checking account and what she took with her when she left. That's it. No spousal support, no asset division including the dog. She didn't even want the dog. She called me too clingy as if that were a terrible thing for a pet. He slid the papers across the table. All you need to do now is sign. We'll send this to her by express mail. And that's exactly what I did. I signed the divorce papers that day. My lawyer sent them to her apartment. Yes, she moved into a rental apartment in a high-rise building after leaving, as if she were starting a new chapter. She contacted me again as soon as she was served. You're serious? I replied with a single sentence. Completely serious. You open the door. I'm closing it now. She replied, I didn't know what was in the prenup. I just didn't know it wasn't my fault. I didn't hear from her after that. But you know who I did hear from? Sarah. Rachel couldn't just accept the loss and move on. No, silence isn't her strong suit. Apparently, Rachel showed up at her apartment uninvited, as if she were staging an intervention. According to Sarah, she knocked on the door as if she were trying to break in. No warning, no message, just fury and high heels. Sarah opens the door calmly as if expecting a package instead of a tantrum. Right off the bat, Rachel goes into full theater class mode. You betrayed me. How could you do this to me? Sarah didn't hesitate. She just stood there with her hand on the doorknob, as if she were thinking whether she should listen to her or just walk away and let her scream at the wood. Sarah then says calmly and directly, You destroyed your own marriage. I just decided I wasn't going to clean up the mess for you. You quit the job and now you're mad because someone else applied. Rachel stood mesmerized, perhaps expecting Sarah to apologize or soften. Instead, Sarah told me she looked her in the eyes and said, If that's what you came here for, you can leave the same way you came in, alone, before closing the door. While Rachel was out here trying to launch a one-person self-pity parade, I was tightening the screws. I transferred all our joint subscriptions to my name. Denied her access to everything that was still linked to my accounts. Changed every password as if I were a hacker with something to prove. I cleaned the house not just physically but mentally. Took down old photos, donated wedding decorations she refused to take, and threw away the rest of her disposable beauty products. And just like that, she was gone. No more alimony, assets, or power to be used. Sarah once asked me if I was feeling bad. I said no. I feel like I walked out of a burning building and found someone standing there with water. The divorce is now official. Rachel is no longer my wife, legally or in any other way. Honestly, the moment I got the confirmation call from my lawyer, I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I stood in the middle of my kitchen still wearing work boots and just smiled. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was done. Life wasn't perfect, but it was finally mine. Honestly, I could have ended the narrative there, but of course Rachel wasn't done complicating things. She never finishes. It was my sister Emma's birthday. Backyard barbecue. Simple things, close friends, family, and meals I prepared myself instead of hiring expensive catering services as Rachel used to insist. Sarah was helping with decorations. Emma brought her famous potato salad. My cousin Tyler was already on his third burger. Positive vibes all around. Then something happened. Someone from inside shouts, "Michael, there's someone at the front gate." I rush to look and there she is, Rachel. She's standing at the edge of the yard as if she's returning from exile. Hair done up, high heels and big sunglasses as if she's avoiding photographers. She was holding a gift bag. Yes, a damn gift bag. Probably full of shame and confusion. Everyone froze. Even the dog went quiet. I walked over there calmly and serenely. I wasn't angry. I was amused. "Rachel," I replied. "You're not invited." She tried to smile. "I just wanted to say hi, maybe talk." It wasn't the time, wasn't the place, not the guest list. She took off her sunglasses and started her classic script. "I've been thinking a lot and I just want to give our marriage another chance." I made a mistake. I nodded. "Yeah, we were all expecting that." She kept walking. "I hadn't realized what I had until it was over. And seeing you with Sarah is none of your business anymore." People were watching. Emma crossed her arms from the other side of the yard. Rachel looked around as if she just realized she was no longer the leader of the pack. She asks, "Can we at least talk in private?" I shake my head no. "Whatever you came to say, keep it to yourself. You had months, had chances, chose someone else. And now you're here because he ended things with you and I didn't." She was quiet. Very quiet. Then she exclaimed, "So you're just going to replace me? Is it that easy?" I leaned in and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You replaced yourself the instant you gave me permission to stop being your priority." She tried to redeem herself. "This isn't over. You can't erase everything we had." I laughed. "Rachel, you erased everything. I just swept up the pieces and handed you the broom." She opened her mouth as if she were going to explode. But Sarah approached, calm and firm. Didn't say anything. Just stood by my side. That was enough. Rachel looked at her as if she were waiting for a big moment. Sarah simply tilted her head and said, "You were his past. I'm his present and his future. So you can leave now." Rachel stood there for a second as if she expected someone, anyone, to defend her. No one did. She left without saying anything more, immediately going back through the gate she'd entered. The gift bag still in her hand. A minute later the music started again. Emma offered me another burger as if nothing had happened. She walked past me and said, "Happy birthday to me." Sarah and I sat down and she just looked at me saying that was good. She replied, "Better than winning the lottery." So that's the story. Rachel wanted options. She took advantage of them. Then quickly discovered that love doesn't come with a backup generator. She thought I was weak enough to keep waiting. She was wrong. I didn't just get over it. I built something better with someone else. If anyone reading this is thinking, maybe I should give them another chance, don't. Let them be someone else's disaster. You have better things to wait for after that. Peace. True peace. And for the record, Sarah makes way better lasagna.